Paris, France is the most visited city in the world, and for good reason, as it's a true cultural mecca. In today's video, I will talk about things that you should know before you visit the City of Lights. Welcome to Travel Adventures with Eric B. I'm Eric B. If you're new here, I offer travel advice. I am a solo traveler and I do vlogs to help you travel better and more efficiently. So let's get started with the first place you're going to arrive to, and that's the airport. Now, Paris has three airports, two main airports. Paris has Charles de Gaulle, Orly, and Beauvais. Okay, we'll start with the biggest of the three airports. Charles de Gaulle is the largest airport in France, the second largest airport in Europe, and it's connected to the city center by bus or train via the RER-B, which will cost you around 11 euros, take you about 30 minutes, and you'll get off at Gare du Nord, which is the largest train station in Paris. The cheapest way to get there would be the bus. The bus would take you 45 minutes to an hour to get to the city center, and that would be on bus number 350 or 351. There's also the Roissy bus shuttle, which will cost you about 13 to 14 euros, but that one doesn't stop everywhere like the cheaper one, which you can get on for like 2 euros. The second largest airport, Orly Airport, is 8 miles south of the city center. You can also take the bus there. It'll take you about 50 minutes or so to get to the city center via the bus. But it's also connected by the Orly Valley, which is a connection of the metro, which takes you to all three terminals of the airport. And it's connected to the RER-B at Station Anthony, which will take you into the city center as well. And that's probably going to be your best and most efficient way to get into the city center. Taking a low-cost carrier, you end up going to the airport Beauvais. I recommend do not even take that airport because it's 52 miles away from the city. If you're going to catch a cab, it's going to be upwards of 170 euros to get there, which is expensive. About a $16 bus, but an hour and a half ride. So I would say if you can, just go ahead and book one of the two major airports unless you just get like a free ticket. The second thing you should know is that you should definitely be taking the metro. There's a reason why 1.5 billion people a year ride the Paris metro. There are 380 stations and 16 lines on the metro. It is very extensive, taking you to all of the tourist spots that you may want to go to, including both airports and Disneyland Paris. And the metro is pretty much a very straightforward system. It's not confusing like the New York City subway or anything like that. Basically, you're paying $1.90 for a single ride, and they're valid through zones 1 and 2. Or I would get the multi-ticket zones. They'll take you to multiple places. Or get a setup. I think I got it for the 3 days. You can pay that or you can pay per day. I'm not in front of the machine right now, so I'm not going to be able to tell you the perfect places. But I may do a video on it later, next trip to Paris. I'm looking for a video, but I would definitely get the multi-tickets if you're going to go there. And also keep in mind when you're there that it's not very handicap accessible, but we'll get into that a little bit later. You'll have to do a lot of walking up and down stairs. The next thing you should know about Paris is you should know about the vehicles and driving in general. Now, I recommend not driving here if you can't. The metro's excellent, like I just said. But if you're going to road trip or you're going to some different places, you want to rent a car, you're going to drive here, you need to keep in mind a couple things. One thing is there are a lot of electronic vehicles here, definitely. A lot of charging ports and everything, which is a good thing if you're going to rent an electronic vehicle. But also keep in mind there are a lot of standards, 5 speeds if you will, not a lot of automatics. So you'll be paying extra upcharges to get automatics. Plus the roads are very small and the cars are small. So do keep that in mind. And the way people drive and park here, there's not a lot of parking. So there'll be a lot of parallel parking and people parking literally right up on your bumper. Fourth thing you should know is that hotels are not cheap and the beds are small. And this is all over Europe. This is not just a France problem. This is all over Europe. You're going to get small beds, smaller rooms. Structures in general in Europe are smaller than the U.S. They're much older, so you won't get those big, huge beds. You'll get two like smaller beds pushed together, and the prices aren't cheap on top of it. So it'll be a little bit of a disappointment, but you'll have such a good time exploring the city that it won't even matter. The next thing you should know is that it's must visit. To visit the neighborhood of Montmartre and visit the Sacré-Coeur Basilica. This basilica is absolute must visit. It sits 427 feet up the hill. You can take the vernacular up, or if you really feel like it, you can take a lot of steps up. I'm going to take the vernacular up and visit one of the most visited places in all of Paris. This beautiful basilica sees over 10 million visitors a year. Built between 1873 and 1924, Sacré-Coeur means Sacred Heart in English, which means the heart of Jesus. This building is absolutely beautiful on the inside and the outside, and the views that you see from the top are absolutely incredible. 360 views of the city, and the views you get of the city are absolutely free, so you cannot beat coming up here and seeing these views for free. You're a couple, you could come up and you can get the love locks and put them on the gates, and everything is truly amazing. So I highly recommend you come up here and just spend some time and enjoy it. The sixth thing you should know is that absolute must visit is the world's largest and world's greatest museum, Musée du Louvre. The Louvre is a fantastic museum. This is a place that you could really spend all day. Just absolute beautiful and extensive collection of art. It is the biggest collection of art anywhere in the world. There's so much to check out inside of this museum. The three pieces that it's best known for is, of course, the Mona Lisa, which is tiny, by the way, but it's worth over $1 billion. Venus de Milo, which you see right there, which is very famous, and also the Winged Victory, the goddess Nike, which is my personal favorite right there. But there's just so much to see in here of tremendous detail. The palace itself was built in 1793, nearly 230 years old. There's so much art here, art from the ceiling to the art that you see right here. This gym houses a collection of almost 500 million different works. Almost 500 million. You could literally be here all day, into the next day, and not see it all. The next burning question that people have is Disneyland Paris worth it? So if you're looking to get your fix on Disney, I recommend Disneyland Paris, and I also recommend Disneyland Paris if you've never been there and you just want to go to another Disney. I can't compare it to Disneyland California because I've never been there, but in comparing it to Disneyland in Florida is certainly bigger than Disneyland Paris. It has like 5 parks. Or 4 parks. Disneyland Paris only has 2 parks. Disneyland Park, which is similar to the Magic Kingdom, and then Walt Disney Studio, which is similar to your Hollywood studios. A one-day pass for one park, basically looking at about 60 to 65 euros. Both parks, one day, looking at about 120 euros. It is situated outside of Paris, Chesky, France. You could take the RER from the city center and make it there, so it is convenient. It's been open since 1992. When I went last year, it was its 30-year anniversary. Of course, the next thing you want to know is about the Eiffel Tower experience, as the Eiffel Tower is iconic and is the symbol of Paris. Okay, so you can go up to the top of the tower. I haven't been yet. I definitely want to do it, and I will one day. But I don't think this is a must, because the thing is, you won't get a view of the city from up there. If you're claustrophobic, you might want to not go up there, from all that I've heard about it. And you also have to pay to go up. You can go to a park nearby and get an amazing view and just have a picnic and enjoy yourself. Or you can go at night. And if you go at night, it's a whole different experience in itself. Once an hour, you can see the Eiffel Tower light up and see the sparkles once an hour at the top of each hour. And you always have to keep in mind, one of the greatest views you can have of the city is the view of the Eiffel Tower. And you can't have that view when you're in the tower, so you do have to keep that in mind. So I highly recommend coming up close, getting off the metro and going to see the tower at night and checking it out up close. Or if you got a hotel with a great view and window view, at the Hyatt Charles de Gaulle back in 2020, absolute amazing view. I recommend that. Next thing you should know about Paris is, much like most of Europe, it's very heavy on its cafe culture. People like to get up early in the morning and go have croissants and have a baguette, sit around, smoke and everything. It's a big thing, the cafe culture in Paris. The Parisians love it. You should definitely try it out. Sit out and enjoy the cafe culture because it's a big thing there. The 10th thing you should know about Paris, it can be an expensive city, but there's a lot you can do for free just walking around and exploring the many parks in the city, the great views, the observation decks, the beautiful neighborhoods that you can just walk around, the bridges, the street art everywhere. Like literally, there's so much you can explore and see in Paris for free. You can go pay a little bit of money to go catch the RER and go to the countryside and see some beauty for free. You could go up Sacré-Coeur on the vernacular and enjoy the beautiful views. You could walk around the expensive Champs-Élysées. Obviously, you won't be able to afford anything in the ridiculously overpriced shops, but you can walk around, enjoy the beautiful view, enjoy the Arc de Triomphe. There's just so much you can see in this beautiful city for absolutely free, just exploring by foot or taking a bus for cheap. The next thing you should know before you come to Paris is, of course, you're in Paris, France, so the main language is going to be French. But most people in the tourism industry, especially in a city like Paris, are going to speak English because English is the de facto language of Europe, and most people in Europe know multiple languages. But you should definitely know a few words in French. When you're in a restaurant, you should know how to say la décision, s'il vous plaît. To ask for your check, you should also know how to speak to people. Bonjour, you should know how to say good evening, bonsoir. You should just know the basics. You know, it'll soften people up. Start off in French and then switch to English because chances are they know English very well as well. The next thing you should know about Paris is that France uses the euro. Now, a lot of countries in Europe have their own currency, so you definitely need to know from country to country when you travel what currency they use. But they use the euro, and the euro is currently $1.07 to $1 on the US dollar, so it's very similar to the US dollar. I'm also always quick to point out with the euro that coins matter, unlike the US dollar. So you might have $1 or $2 coins, so don't throw away coins in Europe. Okay, folks, so I gave you 12 things you should know before you go to Paris. Now I'm going to give you some bonus things. The first bonus is pay attention to the scammers and pickpockets. There are pickpockets in Paris and all the major cities in Europe. It's sort of a big thing. They look for you on the edge of the door when you're getting out of the subway. They look to pick your pockets. There's all these type of scams, spill mustard on you, all these type of scams that I've heard about. I haven't experienced these scams, but I've heard so much about this. But I have experienced the scammers in terms of the people that want you to sign petitions. Don't sign anything. Also, the people out there that you find on the corners trying to sell you the mini Eiffel Towers and sell you the blankets, and they want to negotiate their own price and everything. It sounds good at first, and then they want more money. So pay a lot of attention to the scammers out there, because, and then you got the scammers out there that'll try to tie something on you and tell you it's a free gift, and then they'll ask for money, or the ones that'll give you a ring, or if they try to put anything on you, just keep walking, tell them no thank you. Do not let the scammers get you in Paris. Next bonus, the waiters out there in Paris and the service out there, it's not good. You don't really tip out there the way you do in the U.S., where you tip 15 to 20%. You can just leave them a small tip if they do a good job. But they're not the nicest people out there, especially when they're out in the service industry. So do keep that in mind. Don't expect your service to be quick when they come to your table, order your food immediately, and all of that kind of jazz. If you don't ask for your ticket, your la décision, s'il vous plaît, you might be sitting there waiting for a good while. So make sure you ask for your ticket as soon as you see them and you're done. You come to your table, make your order immediately, because the service is definitely offhand. The last bonus is Paris is an old city like much of Europe, so it's not always handicap accessible. A lot of times you're going to be in a hotel that you're going to have to go up many flights of stairs. They don't have an elevator. You might want to call and ask in advance, can you put me on the ground floor? If you having mobility issues, the metros are great, but many of the metros don't have elevators. A lot do. Seems like more do than they did the first 2 times I went to Paris. I feel like I saw more elevators this time, but there's a lot of walking, and there's not a whole lot of elevators on the metros in Paris. So, yeah, so do keep that in mind for people who are looking for handicap accessible. And that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I ask that you please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the bell notification so you can know when I have more material coming out in the future. And I hope that you're enjoying this Summer 2022 Europe series. And as always, remember, live today, grow today, tomorrow's never guaranteed. Peace! And travel. Lots and lots of travel. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit the like, share, subscribe button. Leave any comments below. I love to interact and help us to continue to grow as a travel community.